Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Center for Clinical and Translational Science Career Development Awards Brown Bag Information Session. I see at least one person brought some food. And so I'm Stuart Hobbs. Is that a little bit static? Is that because it's in my pocket? Probably so. It's my... And I am assisted by Amy Wharton, and here's the way it's going to work. As you know, we have two grants, and they have, one is the Pre-K Davis Brimmer and one the KL2 Award. And so I'm going to be leading the discussion and answering questions about the KL2, and Amy is going to be doing it on the Pre-K Davis Brimmer. And that's going to take place in the next room. So we wanted you to gather here and then decide which particular one you were most interested in, and then we'll break up accordingly. Right, that be questions about that?
If you're not sure which one you fall into, we can help you find which room.
Yeah, maybe you'd already figured it out before you got
KL2 here?
Yes. So I guess you want to lead the way into the adjacent chamber. The KL2 will be here. And we'll hope to see you, Davis Brimmers. We'll win and apply for KL2 in a couple of years. All right. And I presume you've all found the RFA and the website, and were able to download the RFA and the application instructions, all of which contain a lot of information. I wanted to go just make sure, understand the eligibility requirements, that based on NIH rules, you must be a U.S. citizen or have a green card. The regulations also say some other verification of legal admission. I'm not quite sure what that is, because it really is the green card or permanent resident card, officially known. For those who just came in, we're talking about the KL2 Award here, featuring Davis Brimmer. It's next door. And if your green card is pending, it's probably best not to apply, because you really need to have it in hand if you don't know it's still pending the time the award starts. Then, in fact, create a problem. So, who knows how long that process can take. Hello, this is the KL2 Award in here. Here's the Davis Brimmer at the next door. Yeah, okay, great. Oh, and I knew I had something about I think probably those slides are out of order. This one should have come first to explain the KL2 Award. It is a institutional NIH Career Development Award. So the Center for Clinical and Translational Science received the money from our funding organization, our Clinical and Translational Science Award from the National Center for Advancing Translational Science. And so we administer it following in the NIH rules. So it's kind of like the K-12 award, it's another institutional K award. And so it's for investigators who are obviously working in the area of patient-oriented or translational research. Focus is on junior faculty, let's say 3 or less years in their appointment. Research scientists can also apply. I will admit that sometimes it's difficult for them to break through. It does happen. We had one who was appointed a couple of years ago. And actually he was in for a year, and then his mentor got a job in Maryland, and so our KL2 KL2 went with him and got an assistant professor job there at the University of Maryland. So I think one thing, if you are a research scientist, really pay attention to the career development plan, the mentoring plan, and especially if your mentor can talk about how this might help you move on to that tenure track position, that could probably help. And obviously, we're trying to provide an opportunity to give training to researchers at the beginning of their career so that they can develop a successful career in clinical and translational research. To do that, we'll give you release time. So we're paying for 75% of your time, so that's time that you are out in the classroom or the clinic or there's other responsibilities, and we'll provide salary support and fringe benefits, yes.
Is it only our salary support, or can we put technician in it? I've already funded with other smaller grants, but can I put a technician salary on this grant, or this is only for our salary?
Yeah, no, you could use the research expense support.
But not the salary support?
Right, I don't think that.
Okay.
You'll also have access to professional services from the CCTS, like biostatistical support and subject recruitment support for clinical work. We have access to training programs. Not only will you, of course, be providing some career development in your own application, but also the CTS sponsors various training programs. There's some, especially for the Ks, and you'll have access to that training.
Is there a list of those training programs that we can access?
Yeah, I mean, particularly, I can say we have a lunch and learn program that's probably going to be moved like once a month, and we'll have speakers come in with very kind of focused presentations on career development aspects, staffing your lab, grant writing, what goes on in the study section with the NIH, these kinds of topics. There's also a national meeting that you can attend from the American ACTS, the Association for Clinical and Translational Science, if you know what the acronym stands for. We also provide mentoring training for the mentors. And then there are various other kind of special programs that will come up from time to time as well. And it's a 3-year funding with 2 years supplied through our grant and the 3rd year through your college. And a particular focus in that 3rd year will be a formal process of training and review that will help you to write your next grant. Either an individual K award or an R award. So they'll be actually writing the grant and having the others in the group help you critique it, as well as experienced faculty with grant writing experience and grant success, guiding you through that process. So the end result, we hope, will be that at the end of your KL2 funding, you'll have another funding source. Yes.
Quick question. So that 3rd year that's provided by the college,
Yes.
in the paperwork somewhere, do we have to get, I assume, the college dean or
Yes.
whoever to approve? Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so sorry that presentation was a little out of order there. Another key part of the eligibility is having a research or health professional doctoral degree. So pay attention to that. If you've been a principal investigator on another NIH research project grant, then you are not eligible for this one with the exceptions noted there, some individual small career development grants. And we're talking about the KL2 program in here. If you're interested in Davis Brimmer, it's next door. And you cannot be a project leader on these P01 or P50 grants. Again, there are some exceptions noted. And you can't apply for this grant and apply for another individual K grant at the same time with the same proposal. You could do something that's different research project, with different career goals, different mentoring team, but you can't have the same thing going on 2 different places. So as a reminder, we have our letter of intent due on November 3rd, and basically that's just there's the online form with your name, a little bit of information about you, and the 250-word abstract. Part of it is also kind of a checklist of eligibility, so it's the final. If you're not a U.S. citizen, if you have had an R grant, you're not eligible for this. So it kind of goes through that to make sure you're aware, if you can and cannot apply for this, and then provide a brief abstract. And a key reason for this is we just want to get an idea of how many people are applying, so we know how many people we need to have in the study section, and also if there's any kind of unusual projects that we need to make sure we have someone who has expertise in that area. We're covering the KL2 grant here, and the Davis Brimmer is next door. So, okay, yes.
It also said on the RFA or whatever that you could have a grant if you had any other small foundation grants. They had to be less than $100K a year.
Right. Yeah. So that's
Is
what.
that combined or total?
That's no, just kind of the individual grants.
Okay, the individual grant, as long as the individual grant, I mean, I have 3 small,
Yeah.
25,000, 50,000.
Yeah.
Okay, but I just have to have a total. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's right. So major NIH support or foundation or industry support. We've got that large grant. So that non-NIH equivalent of an R grant would be eligible for this. Slides are out of order. Okay, so the full application will be due in February, and as you can see, has all of these components to it, and they're described in the packet. And they'll need to be combined into one PDF document that then you'll upload to the grant site, grant application site. And I want to go over a few of the components here. The project description is a 12-page maximum, and so it has these components to it. The applicant history is kind of a place to give a supplement to your NIH BioSketch. It might explain, about your particular career interests. One time we had an applicant who had been an assistant professor at OSU for less than 3 years, but they'd been a few years an assistant professor at another institution. So they're asking how to handle that. And I was suggesting that in the applicant history, it might be good to note, for example, and I don't know exactly what their status was, but they were at another university and say a clinical appointment. Then they got this new job at OSU to have more of a research focus. That'd be the sort of thing to talk about in the applicant history. So I'm my goals are this research orientation. I'm very new now in this research-oriented assistant professorship. Because again, we're trying to get early career investigators. So you've had 5 or 6 years as assistant professor over 2 institutions. Be good to explain that. So that's the kind of thing you do with African history, to supplement what's in the bio sketch and further, explain why this award is important to you. Then the career development plan is important. I note here this is a career development grant. This is going to be an important part of the research criteria. So, for example, one of our KL2s was an optometrist who did a lot of animal-focused research. He was interested in moving to more human-focused research. So he used the KL2 as the vehicle to make that transition. And so he talked about that in his career development plan, that he was going to, get some additional training and use then the time on this grant to make that transition.
So using that example, that's really what I'm planning on doing. How much preliminary data are you looking for? I mean, can we use our mouse animal studies as kind of a jumping off point to this is what we're going to be doing and the IRBs are in process? Is that within the scope of this grant, or do you really need strong preliminary data in order to go?
No, I think you could, to support this, if you've got the animal data, you've been doing animal research and trying to make that transition to human research, then you could use the mouse model data. And, make a convincing case that this is,
So that
that
amount of preliminary
condition
data would be
would work,
sufficient?
yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
If it's, could be the research, if the study section will agree, yeah, these results seem to suggest a promising line of inquiry in human beings, yes.
Is it important to have a publication already in that area?
The questions about publications, and generally the study section does look for people who have had publications.
In that
I would not necessarily say it's been in that area, no. I think a lot would depend on the career development plan. Like I said, it's the case of the person transitioning from animal to human research. Obviously, he's not going to have a lot of publications with human research, so they were not going to be exactly related to his research.
So if I have like two projects in mind, one I have a publication, recent publication, one it's not out there yet, which one do you think I should go for?
I would talk to your mentor about that, because you've got a way, if there's the publications out there, there's one that's pending, if one is pending in a better journal, or if it's that line of research might be more innovative or fit better with your career development goals. I think the fact that it's accepted and it hasn't been accepted, it's been waiting publication, that that's going to be considerably equal to a publication that's already out there. So I think that needs to be considered, put in a larger context of your career goals. And like I said, I would work closely with your mentor to work through that. Yes.
One more question about the career development plan. I've written K99R00, and it's very important to highlight how this will give you independence.
Right.
Is that
Yes.
also what you're really looking for here? Is not only is it mentoring, but it'll be a pathway to independence as well?
Yes, but this is a K award,
That is
like
going
the
to be
K,
going
and
to.
that's the whole idea of the K award. It's a
So
transition.
not just what you're going to be doing, but how this will launch.
Right, the transition to independence and getting an R grant. Exactly.
So again, coming back to the same question, if you're a research scientist and you're writing this K1, do you have to propose a plan as to, because for writing R1s, you have to be a faculty position. So how are you going to transition to faculty position before you gain complete independence?
I know you can be,
You don't have that on faculty.
yeah, because you can get to be like PI status at the research foundation. You can be research scientist, I think.
So you can propose writing R1s with a research
Yeah.
scientist position.
Any other questions? Delve a little more into the research plan, and this is outlined again, the checklist and the application instructions. It has these various parts to it. Note the references are not included in the page count. So you want to have 2 or 3 specific aims, making sure they work kind of parallel. It's not like you have to have this one succeed before you can go on to the next one. Know that there's some significant question that you're dealing with. It's good to have some innovation in the approach that you're doing. Make sure that it's a subject that is doable. That's something that's come up sometime in the study section. People say, these are very large, ambitious goals. I don't think that they can actually accomplish these in the 2 to 3 years that we're looking at. And typically when that's come up too, the blame has been placed by the study section on the mentoring team. And so they're wondering, so wasn't the mentor reading this draft and advising this person? Maybe this is not a particularly engaged mentor. So for a mentor career grant, to have a disengaged mentor, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So all these things can kind of fit together among the people in the study section when they're looking at them. So make sure that you engage the mentor in the process. Any other questions about the research plan? Again, this is a mentored career development grant, so you're going to have a mentoring team. We require a lead mentor and 2 additional mentors, so a total of 3. There are some that have 5, we've had as much as 6 mentors before. I don't know if there's anything gained by having, you get extra points for having 12 mentors. I think if you're having more than 3, there should be a clear reason why there are these additional mentors. But again, the lead mentor, that role really should start now in terms of guiding the application process, and of course they'll then be providing further guidance, especially career development and counseling as you go forward. And they're required to write a letter to go in the application packet. And there's another letter from a second mentor. So you'll have 3 mentors, you just need a letter from 2 of them, the lead mentor and one of the others. And you can choose that other person, in conversation with your lead mentor, the others who would be best. Yes?
Question, do all of the mentors have to physically be within the Ohio State system, or could they also be someone who we've potentially worked with extensively and continue to work with in another?
Yeah, that's a good question about whether the mentors have to be here at Ohio State. No, they don't. But just to make sure that, their role is spelled out, and particularly then how they can fulfill that role in the distance, which obviously with telephones and Skype and these things is not difficult. Just, show that you've thought through and that you're not, we'll call him on the phone when we have a question. You need to have more scheduled meetings and, note that you meet at national conferences on a regular basis, so face-to-face and that sort of thing is good. We actually did have one KL2 a few years ago whose lead mentor was not at Ohio State. So that's unusual, and I would say a risky strategy. They obviously had a good reason for that in terms of the expertise of the person. They may have worked with them in the past before. I'm sure there's some sort of connection there, but so that's possible too. Obviously the discussion of how this is going to work needs to be thought out. So in general, you can be advised to have your lead mentor be here, but then having another mentor somewhere else, especially because we want mentors that are complementary to the lead mentor, and even someone from a different field that adds that transdisciplinary aspect to it. And so I have a mentor that is from Washington University in St. Louis because he really is the big person in this area that's different from my discipline. And so that's why we have this person from somewhere else on here to provide that expertise. So that's a very good reason for having someone from somewhere else. Any other questions about the mentors? Yeah, a question came up earlier about the signature page. So you need letters of support from the lead mentor, another mentor, and also from your department chair. And in particular, that department chair letter is a way for the department to show the department chair knows that if you get this award, you're getting 75% release time. So the department chair has got to give you 75% release time. And he needs to acknowledge that, he or she needs to acknowledge that in the letter. And that way, if a year into the grant, the chair has pressured you into clinical responsibilities, and suddenly you're working 50% of the time or 75% of the time in clinic, you can come back to me and the program directors, and we've got a letter from the chair saying, look, you said you knew what was happening when this person applied to get this grant, this is what you said to do for them. So they can be called to account and give you back your time. Because we recognize that's a very key part of this grant, giving you that time to do the research. And then there's a signature page at the back of the grant that you'll take around, and the dean's signature is at the bottom, and they'll be instructed, they need to see the other signatures first before they sign off. All the health sciences deans and arts and sciences dean, we're covering psychology, engineering, biomedical engineering, they all wrote letters of support for our grant, which included acknowledgement of this program, and in particular, if someone from their college department got the award, that they would supply this money. And they're all being sent an email reminding them of that commitment, and that some people might be coming to call for their signature. So they're all being briefed of this, reminded of this, so they're all aware of this. But again, we need that signature to know that we give 2 years of support to you, that they're going to, kick in that third year. So it's a very important signature. And so don't wait till the last minute. So when you start the application, it'd be good to contact, if not the dean, at least the dean, maybe more important, contact the dean's assistant, find out what the schedule is, and to make sure that you can, because he'll probably want to see, he won't want to see the whole grant, but he'll want to see an abstract, some idea probably what you're up to. They want to talk to you, I don't know, that's kind of, whatever support, they may ask to see the whole grant. That's why you need to talk to find out whatever internal policies or things they have. And so just make sure you get on the radar early and get the schedule there. The study section will have a core of it is a internal advisory board for education programs in the CCTS. So that has representatives from across the health sciences. And then, depending on the number of applicants, there were usually about 30 applicants every year. So we usually draw in some other people beyond that. I think it's about a 8 or 10 member group, bring in some other people as well. And also, we want to make sure that areas of expertise are covered as well. And so that could, bring in somebody who just reads one application or something. So it will be a representative group across the health sciences, and they'll use the NIH scoring critique, which you can find online at the address there, the NIH website. And they'll be particularly looking at the quality of the science. In particular, it's also clinical and translational sciences. This is an award from the Center for Clinical and Translational Science. But it's a mentored career development award, so a pathway to independence for youth. We want to see the career development development plan. That's going to be very important in their review. And also the quality of the mentoring team. And these reviewers are experienced people, generally people who know the research community around here. And, you know, in study section it comes up, they'll talk about the lead mentor. And they'll wonder, okay, will this guy be able to devote time to mentor this person? So that question's definitely come up. So, you know, just because you get by hook or jury to be your lead mentor, people might wonder if you really have time to mentor you. The new cancer hospital opening up. So, you know, I guess, you know, just having the dean be your mentor may or may not necessarily, you know, work if people think that person doesn't have the time to do the mentor. So you do want to have someone who will be an active mentor. Yeah.
So the science part of it, is it good to have basic and translational aspects to the project, or only translational should be good?
Yeah, that can vary. So I mean, sometimes there's research that's definitely very focused, say, in the still working in animal models and things. Others that is more, you know, clinically focused. So it kind of depends on the project there. It's not how far along in the research pipeline it is, but both kinds can be fun. Formal part of the presentation. Now, questions? Yes.
Is there concern about if you have a mentor that you have used previously, like say during your dissertation or something like that?
Oh, that's a good question about whether your mentor has been with you since dissertation. That does come up, yes. I would say, let me say that that's hard to answer specifically. This section, on one hand, we'll say, I think they might have a preference for it to be a different mentor, but on the other hand, if the research is very different from what you've done, or particularly is very different from what the mentor is doing, that may not be as much of an issue. I think that's one thing they do. Other thing they do look at is the applicant just going to be continuing the mentor's work or doing their own work? Is the goal of this grant to have someone who can be doing work in the lab for the mentor, or the goal to have someone who can be on a pathway to independence? So that's how they're going to look at that. So if it's really your own project, and you've kind of shown how, you know, I did my dissertation on this topic, and I ran across this particular aspect doing that research, so I moved off this is where I'm going now, that I had this insight or whatever, then with the same mentor, you know, they would see you're doing something different independent with that, so that we counterbalance that. In that case, it would probably be good, though, to make sure you have other mentors on there that were not connected with the dissertation project. So you kind of that is something they look at, maybe you've got to weigh. Sometimes that new insight might be of value to them, but it is all very contextual.
So is it okay to have an additional mentor whose science is very different from what you're proposing, but he or she can mentor in some other ways?
Yeah. And you just spell out what those ways are. I mean, I think they're probably generally looking at the lead mentor as someone who can provide not just scientific advice, but kind of overall career development advice. But it can be the case that other mentors maybe can provide more of that. So maybe particularly maybe the lead mentor can give you good advice about maybe, transitioning to independence and giving the R award or doing the P&T process. But there's another guy who really is connected out there. If you look at the national, international research community that can really help you make contacts out there. So maybe that's, that could be a lead mentor who does that as well, but maybe that's not the lead mentor's forte, so another mentor who that's their forte. So again, in that case, it's not really for the science so much, but for those connections that you can make and finding collaborators as you go forward. Yes?
You said they got 30 applicants. How many awards do you give out each year?
Yeah, up to 3. So it is fairly competitive. Definitely true.
How many applicants?
Yeah, we had 29 last year. We've had anywhere 25 to 35, so over the years. So right around 30 is what I'd expect.
What's the most common thing that puts an application above the others?
Ooh, that's a good question. You might weigh in here too, Amy, if you think of something, because again, there's
Grantsmanship is a huge one.
the way.
A lot of times points are docked just because it's a hard to read application.
Yeah.
So take that extra few minutes to really put it together and have someone read it and make sure it's easy to follow.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Just being able to understand what you're talking about, why it's significant, why all these particular people are involved in it. And I would say another thing that having realistic aims, a project that is doable in the time that is allotted for it. Because they're not necessarily looking, they're not expecting you to be finding a cure for cancer. And they're looking at the science, but they're also, again, looking at the career development plan and the mentoring plan. And so it's how those all fit together. So if you just focus on really cool science and maybe really innovative methods, that can get attention for sure. But if there's not a well-developed career development plan or quality mentors, that's you're not going to make the cut. So looking at, because they recognize, you're starting your careers and we're really kind of building two great things. So it's the way you're going to use this opportunity to advance your career through other additional training, the courses you take, or and then the mentoring that you get. That's important. So, for example, one of the people who got the grant got some additional training. They were going to use MRI techniques, and they didn't have training in that area for a cardiac MRI. So they got the grant, and then they spent several weeks at the University of North Carolina, the leading expert in that field, getting training in that, so that they could take that back to their research and do something they couldn't do before. So you see how that training and the science link together there.
If there's an R&D protocol attached to the application, does it have to be approved by the time you submit, or it can be approved later?
Yeah, that can be approved later. But you are required to have IRB approval, and they list some of the requirements in the instructions about animals and research and all these kind of things that you will be getting the appropriate regulatory approval.
No other budget page, right?
Right, there's no budget page required because we're going to pay the salary and give you a certain amount of dollars of research support. So we know that you write a budget that was a few $100s or whatever total we gave you anyway, so. Yeah.
So if we only, like, I mean, percent effort, I've got effort on other grants and stuff, so if I only need 50% effort, would I just write that? Write it for just 50% rather than 75%?
Well, no, actually, we are requiring 75% effort on this. Unless you're a surgeon, in which case it's 50%.
So I'd have to give up effort on other projects?
Yeah. Maybe this builds up on one of them so that it's, that time is folded into this and some other money maybe goes to help augment the research or something. Yeah, so actually, yeah, we do ask 75% effort on this project. Unless you're a surgeon.
Because with that, if we get an R while we have this K award, do we have to give back the K award if we have to put some of our effort on for an R?
Well, yeah, you would have to resign the pay if you got an R. I mean, you have to return money, but you would. However, we consider that a success, I think.
Right. You can't have them concurrent.
Yeah, you
I'm
can't
thinking
have
about
them
writing
concurrent.
an R as well.
Yeah.
So,
But we probably have you come and talk to our other KL2s and explain how you got the R.
I haven't got it.
Yeah. But you will.
Okay.
If not now.
After this grant. I
That's
will.
right.
So the goal is to write R for the third year of the scale too? Is that the ideal?
Yeah, I think it would be the ideal. It also could be maybe an individual K. That could also be the case.
But I was told if we get this K, it'll dock off the time of our next K. I mean, is that correct?
I have to look up regulations.
This is K eligibility, and so.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I know they're.
So I think K might be like 4 years.
I know they're kind of wanting to get people like, I don't know, I have in mind a 5-year window. I know that's concerning like some of the T awards and postdoc things, more than 5 years, don't people move on.
K-99 is now 4.
Okay. So I don't know if this, I mean, I know you are eligible for some other,
Like K-23s or K-1s
K-8s,
or any
yeah.
of those. I think someone told me that his K-23 was backed because he did this. So he didn't get the full 5 years, he only got 3 years.
okay.
I think KO1 is 5 years as well.
Well, you might want to, if there's a particular area you're in, look at the particular institute where you might be applying for that kind of a grant and see what their rules are. Because there's likely variation across institutes and how that works. But you could work it out. You have 3 years here, and 2 years on another one, and that's above those 5 years enough experience and data that then you are ready for that R award or a major foundation grant or something like that. Other questions?
So are reviewers making the assumption that we can accomplish whatever our goals are on the 25,000 that we're being given, or how?
No, I think I understand that you might be getting a mentor, might be giving in some money, or they might be. And we've had others. One of our Kay's is doing a project which is actually based in Malawi, and she's gotten some, $5,000 a year to pay for some equipment to stock the lab over there, and small grants from other parts of the university or college or outside. So
it wouldn't necessarily dock you if you did need
right,
other
no.
small grants to complete that.
And we understand that the fact that you have this award is a way then to leverage money from other funders. See, I've been recognized by Ohio State by getting this award, so that gives me some some value here. And my research has been recognized, said that it's quality stuff, so you should feel comfortable giving me money. We understand that's how, I like the word. Other questions? Very good. If you didn't register in advance, which is fine, you did, but if you could sign in, so we just know you're here, we make sure we could maybe send you additional information we needed. If you want to do that. Also, we recorded this, so we're hoping that this should be posted in the next several days to the CCTS website. So if you have colleagues that weren't able to come, you could send them in that direction. Or if you want to make sure their application is of low quality, maybe you don't want to do that. Just let you know that you can spread the word that would be out there if they're sad that they missed the session. Hopefully it was helpful. And hopefully we'll see applications from all of you.